Here's another question I've got. It's a good one. What do you think is the biggest misconception people have about being an author or a published author?
It doesn't change you. It doesn't.
Mm.
To be published doesn't make any difference not being published. You know, if you can write, you know, if you're writing really good emails, you know, to Gary, who has mucked up the procedures on something or the ordering of something else, if you're crafting that email absolutely beautifully, you know you're writing a good email. And that's, you know, that's as valid. Yeah, so yeah, I don't think there's any difference. Yeah, and all the authors I've met are such a varied gang. I mean, one of the big joys about being a fantasy author, I don't know if other authors get it, is to go and meet them. We spoke briefly earlier before we started recording. You said you spent 5 days with R.J. Barker in France.
Yep.
I've done 3 conventions now in Poland, and had to hang out with Brian McClellan, Levita Dar, and Brian McClellan again. And I am now really good friends with those people. You know, I've met them I've met Levi socially, but Brian's slightly trickier because he lives in Salt Lake City, or just outside Salt Lake City. But we chat, and we're, you know, that is the perfect convention for me. It's being, you know, being almost forced in spending time with one other writer, and you become mates but yeah, they're so very different people and completely varied, and could not be weirder and wilder.
I went to it was the French Les Imaginales festival that they have every year. I was invited. It was me, Al Robertson, R.J. Barker, Ed McDonald, and we were staying in the same hotel as the American authors who were invited over that year as well. So Stephen Erickson was there, and Robin Hobb as well.
I'm so badly read with fantasy, but I actually have read a few of hers.
She was the main guest of honor, her and Stephen Erickson. And so I spent 3 days sat next to Stephen Erickson in a really, really hot marquee, because it was a boiling hot weekend we were there. And so there again, likewise, and me and RJ got to know all of these fantastic authors and spend time with them and go out for meals with them as part of the festival and talk to them and sit in the bar and chat and have breakfast together in a hotel. Lovely people, absolutely loved spending time with them. And it's the best convention and festival I've ever been to, still, compared to any of the others I've been to. It was.
But was RJ your proper mate?
Pardon?
Was RJ was your proper mate in that gang?
Yeah. I speak to RJ, I guess, more than the others. I didn't know him as well before, but thereafter, I guess, having spent so much time with him, I know him fairly well now. But I wouldn't have met. There's no chance I would have met some of these people if I hadn't gone to this festival. I wouldn't know I would have got to have known them to the way that I do now.
And listen, I met RJ, who's an excellent guy at Worldcon, and I spent 5 minutes with him at a pub table. That's what's nice about this forum, because you really get to you get not only get pushed to meet people, but you will probably spark off one of them, and you'll become really good friends. As I do with Levita Dar in Poland, when there were other novelists there, but we realized that we were both, you know, idiots. We knew we were idiots and piss takers and not taking anything quite as seriously as anybody else.
I think when we saw Stephen Erickson, I think he was a bit tired, and he was a bit kind of worn out, maybe from travel, and he was a bit jet lagged. But because RJ's such an up person, I think Stephen had a much better convention by spending time with us than perhaps he was planning to or expected to. And he said, yeah, this was fun. This was fun. So, you know, that was nice of him.
Yeah, cool.
But anyway, right. We've got some questions from the people I've got for you. So let's have a look. Here's an interesting one. Are there any plans for a TV series or movies based upon your books?
Yeah. I love this question so much.
Yeah, maybe you should explain why you're smiling and why it's so funny.
Because a lot of my friends, my family say, you know, why haven't you done a film or TV of your books yet? It would be so good.
Yes, it would.
I'd be absolutely 100% okay with TV and film made on my books. But Netflix or Steven Spielberg, or no one has approached me yet. Josh Whedon has not knocked down my door. There are an awful lot of books out there. No TV or film has been made of Joe Abercrombie's books yet, and they are very good. Obviously not quite as good as either of ours, but they are good.
He's all right,
He's not so bad. I might read his next one. So yeah, of course, I mean, I'd love it, but it's massively out of our hands, and there are a lot of great stories out there. My main problem is, you probably read 2000 AD comic, and I imagine, being the person I know who Strontium Dog is, and Rogue Trooper.
Yes.
These are films that should be made. The story of Johnny Alpha, that'd be an incredible film. That's been around for 20, 30 years, and no one's made it. So unfortunately, just not that many films being made.
Yeah, it's not up to us. If somebody options our books, that gives them the rights for usually 18 months to 2 years to do something with it, and they have to pay us for that option. And if they don't do anything within that period, the rights revert back to us, and then we have to wait to see somebody else then option them. So it's a case of, with 200, 300 fantasy books coming out every year, finding something that they think will be commercially transferable. If you look at the TV series of the last few years that have been done really well, you've had Game of Thrones, and yes, I know some people had problems with the last series and it wasn't perfect and blah blah blah.
But yeah.
But it was the #1 TV show in the world, and it made billions of dollars. And there are more in the works now. There's a new Lord of the Rings one, which is a prequel TV series. And there are a couple of others, but there's obviously The Witcher, which is ongoing by Andrea.
And there's also a Star Wars one on Disney Telly.
Yeah, Mandalorian. But you can probably do half a dozen fantasy-related TV shows, or maybe 3 are based on novels. So you think about the odds. It's pretty small. That's why they're not being made at the moment. It's the right thing at the right time at the right moment, and also being cost-effective. Like mine have a lot of wizards in and magic, therefore that's a lot of CGI if you think about it. So
yeah, I mean, yours are truly epic, aren't they?
Until the price of CGI comes down for wizards, I don't think you're going to be seeing mine.
What you really need to do is write an incredible fantasy book set on the Isle of Wight that involves maybe a trip to Sandown one day where a seagull attacks you, or something, something quite low key.
A castle in Dublin, because they seem to film most of Game of Thrones there, so something like that. Anyway,
tactics are good.
Next question. Are you more inspired by your new landscape, or is London more inspiring for you now that you're in the New Forest?
Just moved to New Forest. Yeah, moved to New. Probably New Forest. I don't want to belittle London at all, but I'm about to, I suppose, because I moved to London after university because that seemed to be the right thing to do. Everyone's doing it. And then I lived in London. I lived in Australia for a couple of years, then back to London. And I lived in Australia for a year because that's as long as you're allowed to. Then back to London. And then went to Manhattan, as we mentioned earlier, I spoke to you earlier, for almost 2 years. And Manhattan is a mega city. It's properly urban. And then you go back to London, it's kind of quite Swiss villagey. So, in Manhattan, you're never the strangest person on a block. There's always something happening. There's always something weird going on. The pavements are much wider. It's much easier to get around it, and there are many more people on those pavements, even when it's cold. I think it's very cold. And so he came to London and just thought, you're not really, you're not city-wise, you're not as interesting as Manhattan. So coming to the New Forest, which is 0, causes 0. Top trump for New Forest city score 0. But it's just amazing to go walking or running through the woods. And 2 days ago, I went for a run and ran along a stream, and there were Shetland ponies. Shetland ponies with even smaller Shetland ponies next to them. Because New Forest, of course, is fake countryside. It's Narnia. It's not proper countryside. There are no slurry lorries down here. There are no farmers telling you to fuck off. There are very rarely do you see the horrible animal stuff like you see, like a pig's trotter on a barbed wire fence or something you come across every now and then, if walking around Wiltshire, which is where I grew up. So here is much more inspiring. It's much more idyllic. It's much more lovely and sort of Sylvian idyll. It's I think it's much more inspiring down here.
Okay. Somebody asked, are we getting closer to Armageddon? Maybe.
Well, yeah, in the same way that we're getting close to everything. That's how time works. If Armageddon's going to happen, then yes, we're getting closer to it. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like
Next question is, what inspired you to write so many multi-generational perspectives?
I suppose I'm interested in, I've been every age now up to the age of 48. From about the age of 3, I remember them quite well. And I remember how it felt and what it was like. And I love writing from that perspective. And I love imagining what it's going to be like to be older, looking back. So, although I don't think I've written any good old characters yet, I should probably put more effort into that. But I love writing children. I love writing 20-somethings and I love writing 40-somethings and 30-somethings. Yeah. So yeah, I love remembering trying to remember.
Okay.
What it was like. Yeah.
The next question is about female characters. Someone's asked that they really like the fact that you write diverse and compelling female characters. And they said, is it something that comes naturally, or did you have to make a conscious effort to work at writing such characters?
No, I mean, I haven't tried to shoehorn any kind of characters in ever. I write about what I'm interested in. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I might do in the future. I might be forced to, but my life has been diverse and compelling female characters. I mean, I was brought up by my mum, and she died. But then I was brought up by my aunt and uncle. My aunt was a strong person in that relationship. You know, when I was younger, all my best friends were women. You know, I've met a lot of diverse and compelling female characters. It was quite annoying. I don't know if you found this as you do get older, and I imagine you look like the sort of person who had women friends, or you seem like the sort of person who's had female friends through college and whatever, and school. You got to kind of let them go when they get married. You can't hang out with just them anymore. You can't go for a weekend away with your female friend anymore because A, they've got someone, and B, you've got someone, and it's unacceptable. So that's something that's disappointed me a bit later on. I've been there a massive compensation, such as the joy of being married. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame that I've in a way, I've lost my diversity of deep female contact. I mean, that purely in a sort of conversational kind of way.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've got to remember that more than live it at the moment.
Yeah, I guess if you've had that experience in the past, you're pulling on what you've known and people you've met to write such characters.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah. Now that if I want to see a female friend, I've got to see Emma and Jim. You know.
If you don't like Jim, that's tough.
He's all right, you know. But he's
lovely.
Not my mate from years back. Yeah, we don't have the shared experience. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but you know, talk about what happened when we were 17.
All our relationships change. It just the way things are. Everything's changing. You keep there's a lot of reminiscing. Say, oh, remember when we were 22 and we did this? Yeah, why don't we do that anymore? Because I don't want to. I'm in my 40s now. I don't think I'd survive what I did in my 20s. And 2, I want to go to bed at a reasonable hour.
I think that's what it is. You become more of an observer, or I prefer to say tourist. I think that's a sort of slightly less creepy phrase. Now I'm watching other people getting on with stuff and trying to work it out from them. Yeah, and some of my friends are still sending me links to sort of Ibiza tracks and I went to Ibiza once. I didn't really like it.
It's not something I'm doing in my 40s. It's about to do something in my 20s, but that's a long time ago.
Yeah, send me the link to which best slippers. That's what. Or we had a chat about mowers earlier on. That's what I want to know now. What's a good mower?
Just comes with your age. Okay.
No. I genuinely enjoy discussing road routes.
Someone's asked, what is the new book? What are you working on at the moment? What can you tell us about what you're working on at the moment?
I don't know how much I can tell you, so I'll tell you everything because that's easier.
Okay.
I'm writing a children's book because basically my sense of humour is quite juvenile, and also I have a 7-year-old boy who reads the whole time. If you put a mic in or a bug in our house, you'd hear us say, "Don't stop reading, Charlie. Charlie, stop reading."
Wow.
And it's not because we're book burners. It's because we're trying to get him to put his fucking shoes on. He's reading a book, or you're trying to get him to brush his teeth or do a poo or something like that. It's always reading. So I'm really beginning to see what he finds funny. As I said, I remember every age. Obviously, that's a bit of a lie. I don't remember every age that clearly, but I remember from very early on having a really good sense of the ridiculous. But it's why I like Douglas Adams so much. And Charlie absolutely does. My 7-year-old finds the ridiculous absolutely hilarious. The first conversation I ever had with him, he was 4 years old. The first proper conversation I had, we were talking about the fact that I took him to Denver for Comic-Con in Denver, and then we went and drove across the desert, just the two of us, for 10 days, which was one of the best trips I've ever done. So we sat in a pizza restaurant in Denver, and we talked about the fact that red foxes were everywhere. Because he's really into animals, so they're on every continent, red foxes. And I thought, well, when you say red foxes are everywhere, is there one right here? Is a red fox there? There's a red fox there. Oh, red fox! You open up your cupboard in the morning. Yes, red foxes. Get into it. Oh my God, bloody red foxes absolutely everywhere. And he was going on it as well. He's like, yes, hilarious. When you look up there, oh my gosh, there's lots of red foxes. It was the first time we'd gone off each other like that. I really enjoyed it. Sort of hilarious. Both making each other laugh.
Yeah.
And so that's quite my sense of humor is about the level of red foxes being everywhere. I think it fits quite well in this writing for a young audience. So I think what I'm doing, hopefully, is combining my ability to write about, the amazing and the fun and good characters with my very childish sense of humor, and producing what I hope will be a good book from 8 to 12-year-olds. And what it is, it starts off in the Midlands. It starts off in a town called, I can't remember, but basically it's rugby. And they play the game of Kettering instead of playing rugby, obviously, because it's a parallel universe. And instead of all machinery and service people, they have dinosaurs, because the dinosaurs didn't die out. So the cars are dinosaurs, lorries are dinosaurs, airliners are dinosaurs. They go over on dinosaurs. And that's it. It's called Dragon Boy, is what it's called at the moment. And it's obviously it's a boy from James Smith in the Midlands, has the most boring life in the world, who's about to have an amazing life when he gets sent to, strangely enough, the American desert to learn how to be a dragon boy, to learn how to fly a pterodon and escort these huge dragon airliners that are basically huge dinosaurs.
Sounds fun. Sounds like a lot of fun and
it's Harry Potter with dinosaurs, isn't it? Dinosaurs instead of magic. It's basically what it is. It's not particularly original, but I think it's a good characters, good story, and it's funny, and nice settings, and a good world.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a few things, because I've just read your first book again. I reread it because my memory is so terrible. I read it years back, and it's gone. So I finished it today. I finished it about 2 hours ago, actually. I thought I'd rush through it. And I loved it. It's epic, and I was very pleased when I read at the end. I read through your questions, and you said Legend was a strong influence, because one of the few books I have read is Legend by David Gemmell. I read that because I was up for the David Gemmell Award with my first book, and I thought I ought to read a David Gemmell book.
And I didn't win, so there you go.
You know what? I love that. I love not winning, because when people win an award and they say, "Oh, it's so humbling," they should try not fucking winning. It's a good deal more humbling.
True.
Yeah. Anyway, so and I was okay. So you Balfour, clearly Dross was an influence there, I think, on your names. I think influenced you. Also, I like Curly, who lost his hair when he fell out of a tree, because that's what happened to Duncan Goodhue, isn't it? The swimmer. You nicked that directly from.
Who can say?
Well, it's an amazing coincidence.
Amazing.
Video game influence is quite a strong one. Do you think with you?
I don't know, because I'm an old school role player. I used to do, paper and dice. I'm old school kind of a role player.
You know the right way to fantasy. I haven't. Yeah.
I mean, I do play computer games. I've always played them, but I don't think there is. Nowadays, computer games are so complicated and they're so massive and epic, and you can play them for months, and the storylines are amazing and the characters fantastic, but I don't think it really feeds into my books, really. It's just like in a separate part of my brain. I enjoy something over there, and then I come back and and go back to writing. Other books influence my books, but I don't think games do in the same way.
So you can't say to your partner, first I was on the Xbox to do some research.
No, probably can't get away with doing that. Spending, you know, I need to do this. It's really important. I don't know if that's going to fly in my house.
I want to ask you also, your fight scenes are really amazing and huge. How did you research your fight scenes?
Like anything else, badly. You know, it's, as we said, we do what we can. I read what I can. I study what I can. I've done various martial arts over the years. Like we're saying, when you're a kid, you do all these things and you try different things. I did judo for 8 years. I did karate for 6 years. I did kung fu for 2 years. I did fencing. I did, you know, you try all these things. I swam at a local team for years. So you get to try different things, and all of that kind of combined, plus watching a million action films, you know, and you're thinking, if I'm going to write that fight scene between, you know, Arnie and Bennett in Commando, how would I actually write it? And or whatever it might be. And reading 100, you know, a couple of 100 fantasy books as well with fight scenes, and David Gemmell was a massive influence too. So the best thing about his books, I've always felt, is that he puts you right in the mud with the characters on the front line. So there's all this big stuff going on, you know, empires ending and kings and queens and wars and whatnot. Yeah. The story will then take place with the guy on the front line fighting someone else, punching him in the face, and he doesn't care about what's going on. He cares about surviving. So that was very much my kind of act global but think local approach to my books. So
yeah, I like that, because you have somebody sort of being cut in the leg, he's not sure where from, and stamps on his face, and yeah,
it's a mess. People think it's all like it's like ballet, like it's a kata and karate, and it's like, if you've got 10 blokes and you're all shoving and elbowing each other and fighting in a line, no, it isn't. It's a mess, and it would be smelly and dirty and horrible and noisy, and
yeah, and you stab that and go, oh, sorry, Phil.
Friendly fire. You know, you swing a sword like that, you've just hit the bloke next to you in the face with it before you try and hit the bloke in front of you. So you're going to injure someone. It's just, you know, some great TV shows do it well and show how bad it can be. Like Bernard Cornwell's the Arthur trilogy. Have you read those? Enemy of God.
I have actually, yeah.
They're again, they're kind of right in the mud, really.
It's all about the shield wall, isn't it, with them?
Yes. Yeah, and you're stabbing them through the shield wall, and it's like a scrum. You drive them forward, and you drive them forward one step at a time, and that's it. And you think, hang on, that's not what we've seen in films where they run around, and Legolas with his 22, 23, 24, and I'm like, fuck off. I did archery for 3 years. That's not how it works. And hold, no. Mike Shevden, who's a fantasy author, has done a talk about archery and how much nonsense there is in archery in films. There again, because he knows his stuff. I went and asked him when I was doing, I think it was in the second trilogy, to do with archery, and I was trying to get something right. And so I asked him and said, is it ready fire? Was it ready aim fire? Or is that guns? And we took it online and debated it, and there wasn't a definitive answer.
Well, I know this because I've researched my archery too. It's never fire with bows because you don't fire them.
It's
guns fire because there's, you know, fire is involved. Ready aim, whatever you want to do, shoot, loose, whatever, but it's not fire.
It might be ready and then shoot, or it could be ready and loose, but there's no aim. It's like, well, you're ready, that's it, and then it's loose.
Yeah.
So, but it's just, you know, modern parlance and trying to get it right. And as I said, I got some things wrong. Next time, I'll do it better.
Yeah, I like the idea of, you know, before the battle, standing there and, you know, needing a piss or something. You know, the real things that might have happened, having you're chafing. It's a hot day. That sort of thing. I like putting that into my battles.
I think that's all the questions I had. So if people want to stay in touch with you, where should they go? Should they on your website, and are you on social media?
You'd hope. My website's is not working at the moment. My email's just gone down. So the best way to contact me is through Smoke Signal, or hang out in Paddington Station on platform 2 between 11 and not really. if you direct message me on anything on Twitter, whatever, I will always reply. Or if you send me an email, my email address is available. It's gus@guswatson.com. Anyone can email me and I will reply to them. Eventually, it might take a few days, but I leave things in my inbox till I deal with them. So yeah, please do get in touch. I'm always, I mean, I hope to get to a point where I'm unable to deal with the correspondence, but at the moment I can.